Hey everyone, Dr. Gabe Ariciu with another segment in the thyroid pattern. So this is pattern number 5, downregulated 5-deiodinase. So we're going to be talking about the enzyme here. You can kind of see it over here in this thyroid metabolism pathway. So we're going to be really talking about that. The enzyme's responsible for, well, removing an iodine. So activating your T4 into T3, making T3, which is the more active form uh, of the thyroid hormones. So 5-deiodinase, it can become downregulated due to like serotonin, dopamine levels, as well as cofactor deficiencies. Excessive testosterone and insulin can also affect it. And then, of course, the usual stuff that we often talk about: inflammation, stress like cortisol, and dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is a new one. I don't think I've touched on that one too much, but essentially it is an imbalance in your gut microbes. So symptoms, again, very similar to the other ones: fatigue, weight gain, digestive issues, sometimes depression, sleep problems, and then you'll see hormonal things like PMS cycle issues, maybe even PCOS. Acne, excessive body hair growth, which kind of goes hand in hand with the hormone side of things. So steps going forward, going to be talking about, again, reducing stress, reducing inflammation, correcting the dysbiosis, addressing PCOS, and then supporting the cofactors. So maybe a little bit more going on here, but still relatively straightforward. So reducing stress, like the other patterns, is getting blood sugar under control, meditation, looking for maybe a good manual therapist to help with like any of the physical stress you may have from like past traumas or injuries. May want to consider like an adaptogenic herb like ashwagandha, tulsi, or rhodiola. And then there are certain supplements like B6, zinc, magnesium that can be really helpful. But overall, we're trying to get the stress under control, whether it's coming from a job or a relationship, or coming from blood sugar, some chemical issue, or pain. Removing the inflammation, just like we've talked about multiple times. Inflammation contributes to many, many things, but it's kind of a catch-all term. There's many things that cause it. So we start with an anti-inflammatory diet like paleo. And because blood sugar is an issue here, we may even go like low-carb paleo. As you remove these foods, just as a reminder, don't forget to bring in something else, lest you don't get enough food in your diet and you're under eating. But supplementation, something like turmeric, resveratrol is very common, cod liver oil to get your omega-3s in. And again, magnesium, zinc, B6, all of these can be really helpful. And then of course, we go back to the stress, reducing stress, helping the blood sugar. Now, correcting dysbiosis, like I said, it's an imbalance in the microbes in the gut. This can be a bit tricky, and I would highly suggest finding a practitioner that knows what they're doing with this. There's not a one-size-fit-all thing here. It's not a cookie-cutter approach. Everyone's different. I use multiple herbs to help correct this. And when you have dysbiosis, say like an overgrowth of candida or an overgrowth of some other bug, maybe it's a pathogenic one that is definitely causing a lot of issues, you want to make sure that we get a handle on it. So I use natural antimicrobials, something like noni fruit, neem, olive leaf. There's so many that I use. Scutellaria, which is Chinese skullcap. There's a lot that are really, really helpful. And I find these are much better than just taking a probiotic. Probiotics, in my experience, has been more of a band-aid. People will take them, they feel a lot better, but then they stop taking them and they don't feel very good. So if the symptoms are returning, think of it as a band-aid usually. And if you're eating any foods that are increasing the symptoms, you may want to consider dropping them, or at least for the time being, just stopping them. So you may want to consider like a FODMAP diet, or maybe a bit of an antifungal type diet. Just kind of depends, but there's a lot of carbohydrates out there that will feed these issues. Either way, this is something that needs to be considered and dealt with. It's very common. It can be a bit complicated, but overall, once we figure out what's going on, the process is straightforward. PCOS, just like I've talked about in the other pattern, is really addressing insulin resistance. You're cutting out carbs, lowering that. You may even want to consider going keto. Just work with somebody if you're unfamiliar with it, or at least get some good resources, listen to your body. But it's really comes down to, especially for women, it's the conversion of testosterone or estrogen into testosterone, sorry. And when that happens, they get accompanying symptoms. And usually it's things like abnormal hair growth and maybe even like squaring of the jaw. But the hallmark is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So you will get multiple cysts on your ovaries, which can be painful and horrible. This is one of the primary causes of infertility too. So, and that's something that we've dealt with personally. Infertility, that is, not PCOS. But so it's something that hits home and I definitely want to help people with. So supplements like chromium and berberine are helpful here. And again, back to the low carb paleo, very, very helpful, and even keto. And then supporting the cofactors. So cofactors, those are your vitamins and minerals that are needed to convert something into something else. And so here with deiodinase, we often need something like magnesium, zinc, B6, selenium, or iron. Selenium and zinc tend to be some of the most common ones. I often give out selenium and zinc. So it just kind of depends on what your body's needing. And it's particular per person if this is showing up. Not everyone needs it that has a thyroid problem, but it definitely can be a big hitter. So that's pretty much the fifth pattern. Hopefully it's helpful. Kind of the big takeaway is it's somewhat similar to the other patterns. But again, we're going back to cleaning up your diet, cleaning up your lifestyle, cleaning up the environment, reducing stress. But hopefully it helps. Reach out if you have any questions. All right, and I'll talk to you next time.